This month on Community, we recognize Pride.
Yeah, and Buffalo Pride Week, the point of it is to uplift the LGBTQ community by raising awareness and also providing access to a wide variety of events.
I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Pete Gallivan. Welcome to Community. All right, now we're inside with Rob Baird from Evergreen Health Foundation, and the reason we're here is because Evergreen is the presenter of Pride Week.
That's right.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks for having us here.
What's new for 2021?
So again, this year is virtual. We decided not to do the parade and the festival just for the safety of the public. But there are two events that we introduced last year. There is Home Sweet Pride, which is an opportunity for folks to decorate their homes and businesses and offices in colorful pride decorations, and then the community can walk or drive around those neighborhoods to see those decorations. It's like a reverse pride parade. The other option is we have what's called Speaking with Pride, and that's an opportunity for people to upload songs or memes or speeches that are meaningful to them as members of the LGBTQ community and tag us in those posts, and then we will be sharing those all next week.
And tell us about Pride Week. How does Evergreen and Pride Week work together?
Yeah, so Evergreen came about 35 years ago as a result of the AIDS epidemic. And as medical advancements have taken place, people can live long, healthy lives with HIV. We've expanded our services to meet more of the needs of the LGBTQ community. Pride began in 1969 when police raided the Stonewall Inn in New York City. And the patrons of that bar fought back and said, we're not going to stand for this. And so that was the beginning of the modern Pride rights movement. Pride in Buffalo is really big. 2 years ago, when we had the parade, we had over 200 organizations in the parade, making it one of the longest parades in Western New York. And so we have seen over the years more and more businesses just jump on board and really embrace what we're doing for Pride.
And as far as the growth of the Pride movement and also the acceptance and really the people having pride in who they are, it's got to help in the healthcare industry as well, because people aren't hiding and aren't ashamed to come forward if they've got some issues.
That's true. You know, the medical needs of folks in the LGBTQ community is different. And so Evergreen really prides themselves on being inclusive, non-judgmental, and just really meeting people where they are.
I think about years ago when anybody would say they have AIDS or they're HIV positive. I mean, I think back to Magic Johnson. That to me really woke up a lot of people like, oh, okay, this is how you look and you are HIV positive. So when you have people like that on the forefront and they're dealing with this disease, this sickness, how does that help when you are celebrating Pride?
Yeah, it's interesting. While there still is a lot of stigma out there, it's interesting to see how a lot of that stigma has gone away. There's a lot of work to do still, but people have become more and more accepting.
Where do people get these and where do they display them? Anywhere they want, I would imagine.
Yeah, anywhere they want. We do have locations in the north towns, in the city, and in the south towns.
LGBTQ history is often spoken about as if it happened in New York City and San Francisco.
Adrian Hill is one of the co-founders of the Buffalo Niagara LGBTQ History Project. The group is made up of volunteers working to document and celebrate the vibrant history of the community in Western New York.
The project is part of a larger movement, not just regionally but nationally, of local LGBTQ history projects whose aim is to challenge that narrative and to actually show what people did in mid-sized cities like Buffalo.
Their mission is to research and document through public records, but in most cases, personal stories.
LGBTQ people have always been in Buffalo. The earliest story we've been able to find comes from 1902, a transgender man who lived in Buffalo in 1902.
This 7-panel display is a traveling exhibit to educate people about the struggles that the LGBTQ community has faced through history.
In the 40s and 50s, there was a thriving bar scene. 1959, Rockefeller gets elected. He runs on a campaign of, ending corruption. Between him and Kennedy, the leader of the Buffalo Vice Squad, they started a reign of terror in the 60s, right? And in the 1960s, you couldn't keep a gay bar open for more than 3 months. And you know, the community dealt with that throughout most of the 60s, and then in 1969, they decide that they're not going for that anymore.
A revolution was born with the forming of Buffalo's first gay rights group, the Mattachine Society, starting a war on the systemic prejudice against the LGBT community. A large part of the project's mission is documenting specific incidents of that prejudice that occurred not too long ago, much of it through interviews with the people who were targeted.
And she recalls coming out of the bar, and there were police just taking people's license numbers down. You know, it wasn't just about who you were sleeping with, it wasn't just about who you were in relationships with. Being gay in public, just being yourself and gathering with other people and daring to think that you had the right to gather with people who were like you was a criminalized act.
One example of the movement for civil rights is the case of Mattachine Society member Robert Uplinger at the corner of North and Irving. He was charged with loitering for asking an undercover officer to come home with him.
Most people in that situation pled guilty. Bob didn't plead guilty. He took his case all the way to the New York State Court of Appeals and said, hey, asking somebody for a consensual encounter in my home should not be illegal.
Ultimately, the New York Supreme Court overturned the state's loitering statute.
It was one of the first gay rights cases to be brought up before the U.S. Supreme Court, and it happened right here.
And Adrian says the next step for the project is placing markers at spots of significance in the LGBTQ rights movement, starting with here at North and Irving.
This will be the first LGBTQ-themed historic plaque, not just in Buffalo, but in Western New York.
Now, earlier this spring, the Buffalo Sabres celebrated Pride in a big way. Here's Channel 2's Ashley Holder.
The Buffalo Sabres and Pittsburgh Penguins co-hosted the NHL's first ever joint Pride game back in April. KeyBank Center was representing and celebrating the LGBTQ plus communities and encouraging unity. Players from both teams taped their sticks with rainbow tape for pregame warm-up, and Pride warm-up jerseys featured the Progress Pride flag, and there was the official Pride game warm-up puck. Julianne Pelusi spoke with the Sabres coach about Pride.
How important is the NHL's You Can Play movement for diversity in the game and in the fan base?
I think it's awesome, and I don't think you're asking me that question to step away from hockey. I think that is part of hockey. I don't need to step away from it. So it's really cool to see that and be a part of that. I'm excited for it.
They're taking that first step. They're making an effort, which is that's all you can really ask for. Which, I mean, considering where it started and where they are now, it's a huge step forward.
It's always a good thing when there's pride stuff going on, especially from big organizations, especially like the Sabres and in the NHL, which is, you don't really see minority stuff going on, but they're doing it, which is good.
A lawmaker speaks candidly.
I'm living who I want to be and who I'm destined to be. I'm an LGBT lawmaker that's getting married, that wants to start a family, and I'm out here existing and I'm claiming my space.
You are the first openly gay council member.
Man.
Yeah. In the city of Buffalo.
Yeah, it really is an honor to be able to be elected to represent one of the most diverse districts in the city of Buffalo. My district spans from the west side all the way to the east side into Broadway Fillmore. And it really is a signal of the times that we're living in, that people are now accepting everyone for who they are and just really want the best person for the job, regardless of who they are or how they identify.
Has it been difficult when it comes to policies? Have you tried to shape any new policies to make sure that they are inclusive, which would include the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, there are a lot of policies that I look at differently because my family looks differently. So the way that I start a family obviously is different than most couples. And there are, certain policies in the city of Buffalo that are now coming to the forefront about surrogacy, and is that included in healthcare, and how it's included in city healthcare. And it's really important that I stick up for families that look like mine and will conceive children like mine to make sure that we're included in those policies.
Is it different? I mean, do you feel that even as a lawmaker, you're going to get people who are like, no, we don't need to go down that road?
Yeah, there are always going to be those folks. But when you are elected and you know your constituency really well, you really understand that the majority of your voters and the people that you represent, they've got your back. We're lawmakers, we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're we're street sanitation workers. We come in all forms, and really it's an honor to be a lawmaker and to be in this position. And I know that it comes with a lot of responsibility, and I take that very serious. But I also think that being an LGBT lawmaker, it also makes me more sensitive to other marginalized communities, because I know how it is to not fit in, or to feel different, or to feel left behind, or to feel pushed down. So as an LGBT lawmaker, I'm very sensitive to those communities, and I think it gives me a leg up in understanding them.
So in your district, you have Allentown, right? Yeah. Well, growing up in the city of Buffalo, Allentown had its own stigma.
Yeah.
What was going on back in the day?
Allentown was always historically, since some would say the 40s and the 50s, an LGBT enclave, where you had gay couples that would come in to Allentown and fix up vintage homes and really made it a community of their own, from having their own shops, their own art galleries, their own bars, and really were able to exist in a historic neighborhood that they've also helped lead the revival to. There was an old city ordinance on the books that prohibited same-sex couples from being able to dance with one another, and for a bar to still have their liquor license. And there would be some times where there would be law enforcement officers that would enforce that rule. And now it's a complete shift and change, where we're now accepting these gay spaces and these queer spaces, and we're not doing anything punitive to them. Most of the time when growing up, people would say, we want to tolerate your community, and I always say, remove tolerate, accept. You can tolerate bad food, but you can't just tolerate my existence. You should be accepting my existence.
No other generation is going to be able to claim this time.
The expenditure on gay and lesbian travel is huge, and it's in the billions. And if you want those green dollars in your cash register, be more accepting of that marketplace, because those dollars are big, and gay and lesbian and LGBTQ plus travelers spend a great deal when they travel. Outside of New York City, Niagara Falls, it's not a surprise, but Niagara Falls is number 2 when it comes to gay travel in New York State. So we're glad to be on that list. We are iconic. So I think no matter what your sexual orientation is, Niagara Falls is on everyone's bucket list. When it first started, that there was an uptick of about 30 to 35%, Claudine, on same-sex couples that were getting married. So to me, that was, additional 30 to 35% in customers, because that didn't exist previously. So to have that 30 to 35% increase in business was great. And there was a lot of discussion, are they pink dollars? Are they green dollars? Or what are, these are green dollars. And people started to see this as a business and an economic engine, more so than the sexual orientation of same-sex marriage or whatever.
Are you happy to be a part of it? Especially
You almost could get me to cry, Claudine. I almost, like right now, got almost emotional. I haven't thought of it in that respect. I am very proud. I've been doing destination marketing for Niagara Falls since 1998. And 23 years, it's hard to believe. I've never been in a job for this length of time. And to be a part of that movement, when we did that large gay wedding on Goat Island, and positioning during that first weekend of gay marriage that was allowed in New York State, and then the whole country opened up to gay marriage. Even my husband and I met here in Niagara Falls 32 years ago this September, and we had our wedding here in Niagara Falls appropriately. I think Buffalo and Western New York and Niagara Falls have become so accepting of the LGBTQ plus market.
Niagara Pride is launching its inaugural and annual fundraiser event, Western New York Shopping with Pride. It will run from Friday, June 4th through Saturday, June 12th. Participating businesses will donate either a percentage of sales made during that time period or make a lump sum donation to Niagara Pride. Niagara Pride will also be hosting Pride Karaoke Night from June 11th from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. There's the virtual LGBTQ+ game night June 26th from 6 to 8, and Niagara Falls Pride Illumination and Old Falls Street June 28th at 9 p.m., 10 and 11 to celebrate Pride Month and the anniversary of the Stonewall riots. Find more details on the Niagara Pride Facebook site.
For the first time, the town of Hamburg will host Pride in the Park to celebrate the LGBTQ community. The event will be held on June 6th. The purpose of the event is to celebrate Hamburg's diverse communities.
As much as Hamburg is a welcoming community in certain ways, I think we have a long way to go. And I think that we all have friends and all know community members who have suffered based on their gender or sexual orientation. And so all of us are really dedicated to making a community where that won't happen, where, hopefully the next generation won't have to deal with that.
The Hamburg Pride Committee is also offering a virtual training for local businesses. If you complete the training, you'll get a window sticker for your business to be recognized as a safe space in the Hamburg community.
This will be a really nice visual cue for them to display, and for those in our community to see that this is a business, this is an establishment that values and celebrates these values that Hamburg Pride is all about: diversity, inclusion, pride.
Coming up next on Community, we celebrate pride in the arts, from murals to singing.
To the extravaganza that is Club Marcela. Community will be right back. In 1995, the renaissance of downtown wasn't even on the horizon, and Chippewa was just beginning its transition from a red light district to a hot bar scene. And Joe Marcela was opening something the likes of which the Queen City had never seen.
I brought back here the drag world. That's what I was. I started doing drag when I was 17 years old after high school. I saw it and I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, I could do that.
And while many boys his age were getting into sports or rock bands, he was drawn in a different direction.
Gay bars were in the alleyways, dark places. I remember the first time I went to a gay bar, I was 17, but it was legal to be 18, to drink at 18. And I remember the old Eskimo with the fur coats, yeah. And I put it over with my head down, and I walked in, and this lady, he says, $5, and I was like, my hand was shaking. So I walked in, and it was such a colorful world that at that time I thought I was the only person who was gay, like me. And I walked in there and I saw all these people, hundreds of people like me, and I was just like, wow.
He started performing in drag as a teenager, and it just felt right. He found the drag world served as sort of a bridge between the LGBTQ world and the straight world, something that his club, which has been a mainstay in the theater district, has proven out.
Marcela opened up the doors for being the cool place to be. Straight people love to come here. Gay people, it started as a gay bar, now it's a mixed bar.
He says their mission has always been to be a place where people are free to be themselves.
But it's the cool people that come here, who is open-minded and accept life as it is, not as they want it to be.
And now, after 14 months of COVID shutdown, he's relieved to be able to reopen the doors to a place that's already opened so many doors.
It's opened up a lot of hearts and minds in Buffalo. Because even when straight people come here for the first time, they go, what's the big deal? They're people like us. And they end up dancing, they love the music, they love the lights, they love the drags, they all want to take pictures with the drag queens, and it's wonderful. That's what I wanted.
Ari Moore, artist, activist, and archivist.
I beseech everyone to learn something new. Learn something that you had not known before. And take that into heart, because love always triumphs.
Why is it important to have murals like that in Buffalo?
It's telling you that there were those who came before you. Nothing is new, such as the same I've seen and experienced within the Black community. So within the LGBT community, it was necessary, and I took it upon myself to not only form the concept for that, but also to bring other queer artists onto that project. When I first came out, that word was not even in existence. The obvious thing is that I'm a person of color, a woman of color, who happens to be transgender. And I carry that proudly. For many people of color, there can be, and there is, stigma, hatred, and fear. But as so many times I've told individuals, people such as I have been in the world since the beginning of history.
The Buffalo Arts Council, what's going to be your mission?
To continue to extend the beautification of Buffalo through different arts.
And as an artist who is part of the LGBTQ community, do you feel accepted even though this is home?
I've always been accepted, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. I have that confidence that was instilled in me through my parents and mentors. You'll be seeing more of Amore, which is the name of my art project.
Resilience, we are strong, shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience.
How has it been doing virtual performances?
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
So the premise of the chorus was really started with the idea of finding a voice in song for gay men to stand up, take pride in ourselves and in our community. My own nature, I am a gay man and identify as a gay man. And I was looking for a venue to really be myself, to be able to be open, to be honest, and to find pride in myself. I was recently coming out, and I decided that I really needed something to be out, so why not be on stage with gay men?
Do you have to be gay to join this chorus?
You do not. You need to be able to sing tenor, baritone, or bass. That's the criteria. Well, there are many just wonderful composers and lyricists who are putting together works and poems and our stories. And so we go out and sing that. And sometimes it's through campy humor, you know, singing songs that in the past would have been woman songs and making them our own. Or we've got a wonderful piece that is the text of from President Obama's first inaugural speech, I Am That Man, and it talks about being that person who starts the change. We also regularly do a coming out day concert in October. We are always looking for new members. You can contact us through our Facebook page, on our website. There's more specific contact information, and really join us at almost any time.
Especially going into our 20th anniversary, we're so excited about it. Bringing back our current members, welcoming back any alumni, come celebrate the 20th anniversary with us. And of course, new members are always welcome to join. So I think the big message is, you know, we're excited. We cannot wait to get back to live, to sing in harmony and not over Zoom. I can't wait.
For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The Gay Men's Chorus, another organization that has done this community proud for so long.
Pride is really something special, and I'm glad that we were able to recognize it here on Community. If you have any suggestions for Community, we ask that you reach out to us on social media. Until next time, we'll see you later.